What's up, beautiful people? How you guys doing? So today I thought I would come on here and talk about something a little different in the advocating world and something that you people with disabilities need to be aware of and keep your eye on. You know those beautiful things that we like to have called Medicaid waivers and all the outdoor and all the fun things we get to do and be included in society? Well, did you know that could soon be gone if we don't uh keep doing what we got to do to keep advocating and keep doing things that are very important to us and get our voice heard because there's a thing called Olmstead. And what Olmstead protects us from being put in institutions and it allows our voice to be heard and it puts our place in the world. It's also what protects laws through the ADA. And they have tried to pass legislation that got up through some fishing kind of legislation that got kind of through in there. But this legislation states that if a person with a disability does not have a Medicaid waiver or is not on the waiting list and they do not have these laws and Olmstead is not there to protect them, they can be instantly put in an institution. I don't know what this would mean for people that have families like me, but yeah, this is very groundbreaking and very disturbing because let's take someone like Nick. If you guys have seen Six Island Waiting right now, he's in a institution. He's been fighting for about 8 years to get out. So if this Olmstead law goes in effect and ADA is no longer there, we're gonna basically digress from what we have now to 40 years back. Because I know back in the 1960s and things like that, you didn't even see people with disability in schools. I mean, they were locked away and they weren't in classes. All the things that we have now, where kids are in high school, they have classes. They're always doing something. They have things like the Partners Club, which my cousin started back in 1996. They help kids get out and do things in the community in their school. They have peer support. They're able to get high school diplomas. None of that will be existing anymore. We will basically go back 40 years. This is very weird to me and very hard to fathom, and it's something I'm very scared of because right now I have a Medicaid waiver, but just think about the people that don't have the Medicaid waiver that are still on the waiting list and are still waiting for a Medicaid waiver. There are over 7,000 people. I know at the time when I did 6,000 waiting the film, there was 6,000 at the time. That's what's called 6,000 waiting. But now there's over 7,000 people on the waiting list. Can you imagine just not having Medicaid and not having the services and not having the ADA, something that we fought so hard for it. It takes me back to the episode when I did the girl Kristen that crawled up the steps. She was the last one to pass legislation and she was the reason why they passed legislation. So now it's more important that we stand up and fight for things that we want. It's more important that we get more advocates sitting on boards and councils and really making our voice heard and really changing the way not only people with disabilities see themselves, but the way parents see themselves. I know if I didn't have the Medicaid waiver, I would be very down and depressed. But I like to get out, I like to do things, and I like my voice to be heard. And I can't just imagine not having these services and not having people in my life like Melanie with Australia and Georgia. As you guys see, I was able to attend the Australia and Georgia Red Cross ribbon cutting to where they're going to go and they're now going to serve with the Red Cross. So the aging people who serve with the Red Cross are now going to be able to continue their duties in the field and do things like that. And it's also going to help with disaster relief so that people with disabilities can have a place to go and a place to turn to when they can't move, when they can't walk, when they or when somebody breaks their leg, they'll be able to tie a gurney to the back of the chair and pull people out of these natural disasters. And I even gave them the suggestion of putting a basket on the back of the chair, maybe bringing people food and water and driving them down there. So the people with aging things like getting older and things like that, maybe they can't walk as well as they used to, but they love serving with the Red Cross. Now they're available to do that. But if we don't have the ADA and we don't have the protection in place, then people like Amy and people like me who are starting businesses and who have started businesses will not be able to no longer start businesses. We won't have as much support as we do now. We won't have the government to back us. We won't have politicians to say, no, this is not right. You need to do this. You need to protect the people with disabilities to ensure they live a long, fulfilled, and quality life. I know this is something I never thought I would see in my time. I can remember my mom telling me stories of when they didn't have the ADA, when people were just locked away in schools. My dad was telling me one time that they didn't even go to lunch together with people with special needs. They didn't even see them out. I remember the other day I was talking to my dad about a cousin or something he had, and he was like, he had a very bad mental disorder, and it was so bad that they had to chain him to bed because they didn't know how he was going to act. They didn't know how he was going to react and how he was going to treat other people. So they had to keep him chained to bed because he would go crazy. That's hard to fathom because this is in the 1960s, and back in the 1960s, take Crip Camp for example. They didn't even have camps for people with disabilities. Now we have camps. We have sports programs. We have all kind of stuff that we're able to get involved in with the able-bodied community. We have colleges like Alabama, LSU, and all that studying basketball teams. But if we don't have the ADA and we don't have Olmstead to protect us, that says no, these people don't need to go in institutions. They need to be out living their own quality of life and doing what they want to do and be a member of society. This will no longer happen. So this is very weird to me. Like I said, I can only imagine. It takes me back when I think about it, back to the 1960s. Even when I watch movies like Remember the Titans and all that, you never see anybody with a disability. But Crib Camp really hit home because if you ever seen that movie, they really fought very hard for what they wanted. There was a part in the film where they talk about laying down on the ground is one of the local bus garages or bus yards that used to take people from place to place just so they could get lifts on the buses. So this is very impactful to me, and it really gets me thinking all the time. And there's been things where they try to raise like cigarette taxes and all that so that we can have these Medicaid waivers, so we have more money to fluctuate into these Medicaid waivers, and so we have the extra money. So they're trying to raise taxes. I know I've been involved with some of these talks and some of these ideologies that they want to do, like raise taxes and things. But yeah, I just think it's very weird that somebody could just take your rights away. I mean, let's think about what they did just released with um, the fertility yesterday. Alabama outlawed fertility. So if you have frozen embryos and somebody can't get pregnant, you can no longer use the frozen embryos or inject the woman with the sperm so that she can get pregnant. So the world is going crazy. The world is changing, but I really think that we can really make an impact if we just keep our eye open, keep advocating, keep getting our voice heard, and keep going to things like altering Georgia's ribbon cutting and getting behind things like the Unlock the Waiting List program to where people with disabilities can talk to legislators, answer questions, um, and things like that. So I'm going to leave some information at the bottom of this podcast when it's over so that you have some resources of how to find your legislator if you're disabled, and if not, email your legislator. Get behind the Unlock the Waiting List campaign, and on March 14th, we're going to do a Capitol crawl. We're going to reenact crawling up the steps of the Capitol on the anniversary of '88 when they did that, so that people can see what we went through. It's not going to be on the anniversary of the ADA, but we're going to reenactment so that people can see how we got the ADA passed and what happened, so that people can really get an eye-opening view of what we went through and the legislation that still needs to happen. And I'm going to be broadcasting live on Facebook and talking to politicians and doing interviews that day. So you guys, if you can't make it on the 14th of the Capitol, I'll post links to the bottom of the Facebook pages after this podcast. I'm going to find out the information, give you guys the information so that you can attend virtually and we can get these talks going on because this is very important and it's something that people with disabilities need to be thinking about. I had a girl yesterday, she posted on Facebook that said that she was able to make it to her bus and her appointment by herself and she didn't get lost. So people with disabilities need a little extra help. and we need a little extra time to think about how we're going to get there and the transportation things and all the resources and the caregiving and the assistance we need, but we can still do it. And it's very important that our voice is heard so that we can stop things from like Olmstead being taken away because Olmstead is very important. Uh, Nick, he talks about all the time about how he wants to get out of institution, about the things he's going to do when he gets out of institution. He's even advocating inside the institution. He's doing advocacy days virtually. He's talking to his politicians. He's writing letters. He's actually has the Medicaid waiver. He's just waiting to get released out of institution. But for him to get released, he has to have a home. He has to go to a group home or some kind of residency, and they have to have openings. So that's also something we need to work on is getting more group homes and more opportunities for people who live with disabilities. Another thing I want to mention to you guys that the GCDD is doing, Georgia Council on Developmental Mental Disabilities. They're doing a seat at the table where I'm going to be a part of that, and we're going to be taking you into a virtual room and be telling you more about things that are going on, like how civil rights affects people with disabilities and how you can get your voice heard. And we're gonna have conversations to help you tell your story so that we can teach you how to be a better advocate. So that when you go to the Capitol and you do things like this, you'll know how to tell your story and we'll have conversations around issues that you're facing in your community so that you can start developing your story and we can get out our politicians and we can really use this as a place to impact the politicians and you can really start becoming an advocate that you want to become and you can get practice using your story to impact other people and me and my caregiver Jasmine we're going to be a facilitator on that so we're going to be asking you different questions and really having a fun discussion with the council on developmental disabilities and so you don't want to miss that so I'll post the link to that as well and I'll keep you guys posted on different things going on in the Capitol and be sure to turn in on the 14th so you don't miss me broadcasting live, probably making you guys laugh, interviewing politicians, and really getting our voice heard and getting us out there and changing the way that people with disabilities are seen. Thank you. Have a great day.